So apparently smoking is a great sin. But I'll get to that later. I'll make another video about it. What I want to talk to you about today, again, this is Joseph from JohnTheHutDweller channel, is Mother's Day. Let's wish happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. And we should remember, both at this time, the church and Theotokos, the two mothers that we have outside of the physical. But then another way, I guess, Mary also is a physical mother of us, because she'll be the one to the rebirth. Why is she so important? Because she's mankind's yes to God. The first Christian. In a view, some people could say John the Baptist or Saint Anne or things like this. But the Virgin Mary is a great hope and a great help to Orthodox Christians and to Roman Catholics as well. What is so special about her? What's special about her is that she isn't special, just a regular human being that then gave birth to a God, to the God, to that which the heavens can't contain was inside the womb of Mary. There's even an icon called More Spacious Than the Heavens, and it shows Virgin Mary with her arms stretched out. You see the child, Christ. Mary is almost never depicted without Christ, because that is her role, that is her connection. She's the facilitator of the incarnation. Now, many Protestants think that Mary's a later add-on. They're missing something horrible, missing something great, and it's horrible what they do, because they have no type of femininity. There's nothing womanly, there's nothing beautiful in Protestantism in the way of women. It actually degrades women. It's Protestantism, very sexless, genderless, amalgamated, politically correct pulp when it comes to orthodoxy. If there was a time when I believed that the veneration of the Virgin was something pagan, and then I learned more and I realized no, that's not. They didn't co-opt anything from the pagans. So what I thought was, well, that's just the natural pagan instinct in mankind, that everybody's born with this kind of gentle paganism that we need to kind of shed, and we need to separate that out from monotheism, and that Mary was just a need for people, just like how they needed it to have a mother figure. It's a natural yearning that they needed to call out to, but it wasn't God. It was some type of it was something good, but it would lead to something dark. Wanting to call on a mother and this and that. And as I thought about it, I said that's not an evil instinct at all. In fact, that's very good. I mean, that's probably our first and closest relationship to God is when we're in the womb and we're united to our mother. And I started seeing all these things, and they're really not evil. I mean, if you're going to take a very rigid, dogmatic view of things in Christianity, which is not the Orthodox way. We don't bicker and nitpick about such things. Then yeah, you'd say, oh, it's an idol. I mean, you wouldn't have orthodoxy if people acted like that. I don't think you'd have religion at all. You just have totalitarianism, which is not religious in the least bit. It's just structural and mean and rude and cold. But Mary, looking at her as a loving mother, is not pagan at all. Paganism that we find in the Bible is a very sexual, obscene. It's not. I shouldn't say sexual. It's obscene. It deals with child sacrifice, temple prostitution. The goddesses were for fertility. There were many fetishes of penises and vaginas and everything all over the pagan world, and it did seep into Jerusalem. We can see in the Maccabees, the war with Antiochus Epiphanes, just how different these two cultures were. And it was actually a degrading of everything good. It was really disgusting, just perverse. type of things that they practice that we're told. Okay, I don't have the Philistine writings here or the Canaanite writings to say what their side was. But if you look at how the pagans treat this type of thing, and you have to go back to the ancient because some modern day paganism is heavily influenced by Christianity. What I mean by that is they have a reaction to it. They're trying to pull away from Christianity. They're trying, they don't. There's no starting point for them. They already have to start inside a Christian culture and then work back from that, which you're not getting the true form of it. Trying to reverse engineer paganism because it's been wiped out. And paganism, I mean the fertility cults that existed in the Middle East and went up into Europe. But what could be better than when you're praying, you're not worshiping Mary, but it is the loving woman that said yes to God, the first Christian, the closest to Christ. And we're told she's more blessed than any woman. Protestants miss this, and it's very sad. And on this special day, Mother's Day, yeah, it's a Hallmark holiday. So what? It's a great holiday. Good idea, Hallmark. They can make money off of it, okay, whatever. No big deal. But we should have had a Mother's Day long ago. I mean, it shouldn't just be 100 years old or however old it is. People who mock Mother's Day, it's ridiculous. Oh, it's just another. No. Holidays are good. But the Virgin Mary, I could sit down and explain, oh, she's the Ark of the Covenant, she's this, she's that. But really, people know in their heart. I mean, you see the Virgin Mary, solemn face, how she's always depicted, kind, loving mother. It's hard to actually get angry at that. And I think some of the frustration with the Protestants is say that's blasphemous. I would do that if I could, or how that product. Well, if Jesus can save me, I'd just be a wild person and do anything. I wouldn't have any morals. It's a very sad thing to say about yourself. But I think they're jealous because they don't have this beautiful, loving mother. And even those who, let's say, don't have Mary but have some type of feminine goddess that's, maybe imaginary or demon, there's still a great consolation because you recall to mind your mother and motherhood and beauty. I mean, from a childlike state before it gets sexualized. So you have a mother in spirituality, but there's no sexuality. It's not something perverse or gross. It's only about motherhood, not about the act of procreation. So it pulls it away from the fertility aspect of it. And of course, many women pray to the Virgin Mary before to get a child. And I don't think that's wrong at all. And it may be similar to what the pagans were doing, but remember, the pagans were also worshiping a god, which is the same thing we do. So they have many parallels. And C.S. Lewis said there's foreshadowing in paganism. And he took this from the early church fathers, that there is a foreshadowing in paganism, that they didn't get everything wrong, and that there are messianic hints. That's why we can say the light has come into the Gentiles, because once you show the light of Christ, the natural reaction of the people in this pagan cultures are, oh, of course, that's what we're waiting for too. I mean, Christ was also the Messiah of the Zoroastrians. He was the Messiah of the Hindus. He was the Messiah for everyone. He was light to the world. It wasn't just for the Jews. It was for everybody. Pagan, Greek, barbarian, Jew, everyone. And it is something heartwarming and beautiful. And those who look at the statue of the Virgin Mary and see hatred and idolatry, it's coming from inside of them, the hatred. And the idolatry is in their mind because they're trying to either conceive of how can this either not be something that's forbidden or how could it be. But when you come to things in true love, and I'm not saying blindly or stupidly or silly, but in true love, childlike, basically, in a sense. We're supposed to be as innocent as children, but as crafty as serpents. But when you deal with your mother, you're not crafty or wicked or mean at all. I mean, and I'm not saying blindly walk in faith either. I'm talking about this to people who are already Orthodox, who already accept Mary. I'm not going to try to oh, just come to our God. It's not bad. I don't want to do that. Again, this channel's not for evangel. It's not for evangelization. But that natural instinct of wanting to return to your mother, of having that close knit feeling. I mean, you couldn't get closer to anybody else in the world than your mother. That's beauty and should be celebrated, and is celebrated in the Orthodox Church and the Roman Catholic Church. And the Protestants do it, but they don't do it as a religious thing. I mean, it's completely severed from their spirituality, but it's in them because they're human beings. It's a sad thing. They lack a lot, and that's how we should view them. It's just wow, they're starving themselves to death for nothing. But this Mother's Day, uh, it's a great time to remember Mary and what she's done for us. And just look at her historical figure, or even a mythological figure. If you don't believe she exists, just imagine if you were a 13-year-old girl in Palestine, and somebody came to you and said, you're going to be the mother of God. Would you be so strong just to say, let it be? And she's almost, when I first read this account of the Magnificat that's in the Bible, I said, this sounds like Che Guevara. She's like a revolutionary because she starts going. She's not this weak, cowering person. She says that, he's going to rip the kings down from the thrones. He's going to exalt the poor. It's almost like revolutionary theology. She's a badass. It's kind of funny. When I came to Orthodox the first time, I said the badass Theotokos, because she really is. I mean, the Ark of the Covenant was the connection to God, but it was also something that brought immense terror. I mean, she was not weak at all. And there's an account where they were waving the sash that she has over Constantinople when the Muslims were coming, and the Muslim armies were falling and dying right there. Is that an accurate event of a battle? Is that an accurate portrayal? I don't know. Maybe it didn't happen. It's a great story, though, and it tells us of the strength of Mary. She's a strong figure. She's not a weak figure. That's why when we depict her with Christ, Christ isn't this little baby. He's a tiny man. That's the image. He's not, this helpless infant. He's the strong. And Mary is strong. That which the world says is weak, we say is strong. So, where the warriors and the warrior cults with their swords and their blood and their gods Mars and Ares and all these other warlike gods come in and they think they're strong. And you have a young girl and her child, and from them comes a people, a culture that will dominate the world for the next 2,000 years. 2 billion strong are the Christians in the world right now. So that which the pagans had called weak has now overthrown them and become dominant. And now when people say paganism, that the Protestants say, "Oh, it's that." I mean, the Catholics and the Orthodox. So Mary and Christ have dominated those who would have killed them and those who were trying to kill them at the time. So this Mother's Day, we should remember Mary because, if nothing else, she was a mother. And every mother is connected by childbirth. I mean, it's like soldiers in battle. It's a common bond. Today's a beautiful day. It's a wonderful day to reflect on the Virgin Mary. But if you don't want to do that, please send your mom a card or tell her you love her. Tell them you love her. Peace to you guys. Have a wonderful Mother's Day.